Hello.
Hello.
Today is Wednesday, May 26th. No, 25th. Tomorrow is the 26th when I will return home from my time in Colorado, and I'm super excited because it keeps snowing here. And I'm ready to go home and be home with my family, my loves. It's just so fun. So fun to have had this wonderful time with my little grandbaby, and now it's time to complete this journey for now. But welcome everybody. Today, again, it's Wednesday, May the 25th. And just as a quick reminder, today is going to be the last day that I'm doing these conversations this way. Oh, excuse me. And then starting next Wednesday, it'll be a totally different Zoom link. And then to be able to get those, you've got to be one of my followers in Patreon. And that way you will be supporting me. It's only $9 a month. You'll be able to get all of these conversations all in one place. So you'll, even if you can't be live, you won't miss a single one. And then there are other things that I'll be offering specifically in there, because I want to make it super usable. And for anybody who's here and you are interested in that link, I'm posting it. It's just, you can go to patreon.com and just search Laina Orlando, you'll find me. Or there's a link, which is www.patreon, and that's spelled patreon.com/Laina Orlando. It's just that simple. So I want to check in with you. I want to see how you guys are doing. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share about how Course in Miracles is the teachings of Jesus specifically? How are they assisting you? How are they supporting you? So if you want to unmute yourself, please do so. And you do that while I grab a tissue. And if we don't have any shares, we will jump right into today's offering, because it's a continuation from last week's. And right now, especially with what's happening in the world, as I said, today is May the 25th, 2022. We just witnessed the mass shooting at yet another school. And I'm following some of those things, and I follow them not because I'm interested in being aware of the evil that is happening in the world, but rather because I'm a student of the mind. And the Course in Miracles has helped me understand that everybody operates from two thought systems, the thought system of God or the thought system of the ego. So when I look at what is happening in the world, this is the way I've been looking at it now for quite a few years. I just look at it to see where's the ego running the show and where's God running the show. Who is our authority? And as I look at what has happened in the mass shooting of the children in Texas, and, yes, the human heart goes out to everybody affected. Absolutely. That is one of the things that distinguish us when we enter into physical incarnation is we have senses, 5 of them, as a matter of fact. And to sense the suffering of another, to feel, is part of what activates in us a desire for healing, a desire for compassion, for forgiveness. The process of karma that we descend into when we incarnate is so that we can activate those 5 senses. And either those 5 senses get hijacked by the ego and they send us into what has been referred to as the 7 deadly sins. I'm sure you're familiar with them: gluttony and greed and things like that. But if those senses are used in service to God, they lead us into the 7 heavenly virtues. And those are kindness and compassion and collaboration, and obviously forgiveness. for us to be able to see where humanity is coming from, we've got to come inside and find that within ourselves. Because as within, so without, as above, so below. Meaning that looking at what is happening and just tapping into, where are you in that? Are you in one of those deadly sins? Are you operating in anger? Or are you moving into one of those heavenly virtues? In the Course in Miracles, we learn about these characteristics of a teacher of God, and those characteristics are virtues, if you want to call them that. And they teach us through our own personal life experience to have compassion with one another. So as I watched a little bit of the headlines, I don't read all the details. I don't need to get into that. The headlines are sufficient. There are lots of different things that you can look at. There's the angle that this is possibly a staged event, and those people have evidence for that. And then there are those who are watching this as the most horrendous thing that has happened. How could anybody do this to children? And you know what? If that's what happened, yes, absolutely. In the human realm, it's horrendous. But from the God perspective, the gift that God has given us is free will. And the way that we really fully understand the love of the Father, Mother, God in giving us free will is that we are absolutely free to will for ourselves whatever we want. And if somebody wants to pretend that something happened or actually do something like that, either way, it doesn't matter. What matters is that God is not going to punish us. God is a loving God. God is a God of unconditional love. While we are in human form, our work is to begin the process of discernment. Am I using my senses in service to God or in service to the ego? That's what the awakening process is all about. And as I continue to watch, again, the headlines of the next pandemic that appears to be in the works, this monkeypox. Now there are plenty of people who are saying, oh, this is the most horrendous thing. I saw a meme that said that this monkeypox can only be transmitted in 6 ways. CNN, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News, and I forget what the 6th one was. So anyhow, you can add a little humor to that. But at the same time, when we are repeating and getting the people all riled up, and you understand that the mind creates our reality, we are spreading information that activates the mind into creating a reality. If the reality is a fear, well, that's going to get activated. And that's just the way it is, because we're choosing to align with the ego and make that our reality. If while we watch this new thing with the monkeypox and we're aligning with God, and we truly are honestly, God, what would you have me know about this? We're going to find information that helps us understand why in this 3D dimension, things like that exist, whether it's that or the previous virus that was, or the one that's coming next. When you begin to go to God for discernment, we begin to move through those 7 deadly sins a lot faster, a lot smoother. And we begin to understand the unraveling of karma. You know, karma has been taught for thousands of years by the Hindus, by the Buddhists. There is a absolute clear path to descending into karma and to ascending out of karma. In my way of looking at things, which is primarily through A Course in Miracles, the only way to stop karma is to look at what is and begin to see it as a projection of what's in me. So as I look at the pandemic, where has my mind had a virus? Well, I have an ego. The ego is what has corrupted my mind and allows the virus of fear to take over. When I look at this idea of the murder of these children at this school, where do I allow myself to murder my own innocence, my own childlike sense of wonder. Well, I did as a child, because when I entered into this incarnation, I knew I was going to forget the truth of who I am, and I was going to descend into a story of suffering, which meant I was losing my innocence because my mind was now being filled with things that were not true. So I couldn't be my happy, healthy, joyful, curious self for the rest of my life. That had to be blocked. So in looking at what's happening, whether it's the unrest in the Ukraine or the legal proceedings that are happening that are exposing what Hillary Clinton and the DNC party did to Trump and the Republican side, when you can look at all of that, have I cheated and lied? Have I said things that were not true? Absolutely. Well, there's a Hillary Clinton in me. Have I done things and been lied about and have experienced the you could call it the shame or the embarrassment? You know, my reputation was tarnished because other people lied about me. Absolutely. Can I feel both sides? Without a doubt. In me, projected outside for me to see that I can't judge what they're doing from the level of consciousness that aligns with God. My work is to acknowledge both are possible because we've been granted free will. Free will from a loving creator that doesn't judge us if we take sides, if we participate, that recognizes that we have the ability to have this experience. But the minute that we choose to shift our perception, we activate a miracle inside of us that cleanses guilt, shame, worry, fear, jealousy, greed. It gets cleansed from within us through our decision to align with the will of God and not the egos. Now, each one of you here, you know, this is a journey that takes time, but we are in an accelerated aspect of this journey because humanity, there are so many of us that are calling for God to help us. They're calling sincerely for the light in us to expand so that we can see that which was dark within us, that we projected out into the world to help us remember that this world that the ego has made is a temporary experience of how low can we go. That's all that it is. How low can we go? And we can go low by blocking God. We can continue to block the light until the room gets so dark, until our mind is so filled with darkness. We can do that. And all it takes is a little crack in the door. Somebody turns on a tiny little match in the stadium, and all of a sudden you may not be able to see everything, but there's a little light. And that little light is a little light of mine, the little light of yours that is inside, that is seeking to return to its truth. And when you return to the truth, you cannot help but find such incredible peace, because now you understand the game. You understand that we all descend. Father, Mother gives us free will. We enter into roles. We play these roles for one another. Some are the murderer, some are the ones murdered, some are the liars, some are the ones who receive the lies, have to deal with cleaning up that mess. So we all get to play both roles, and we have different lifetimes to do that. Then we also have the lifetime when we say enough. This is insanity, continuing to let the pendulum swing between victim and bully, liar, and person whose reputation is tarnished. Once you have played the game enough times, it's tiring. It's just like when we were kids. How many times can you play Monopoly and your grandmother, wins? How many times are you going to want to play that game? It's not fun. After a while, it's not fun. How many times are you going to play the game of Cowboys and Indians? It's exciting for a little while, but if somebody's always the same Indian and they always chase you down and you always end up in jail, how fun is that? Or vice versa, you're the Indian that's always chasing down the cowboy and roping them on the tree. I did that many, many times as a child. Seriously, we played Cowboys and Indians. It was a lot of fun. Had my own rope. I could tie my sisters up. It was a lot of fun. Not so much fun when they were tying me up, but I enjoy when I tie them up. But anyways, the point is, because we are eternal beings, we are infinitely creative, doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results, as Einstein said, is insanity. So when you see that you're not going anywhere by repeating karma, that the same wars keep happening, the same pandemics keep happening, the same CEOs of companies keep running the world and making decisions from this company to that organization to that one, and we expect different results, at some point you see what's happening and you go, enough, enough. That enough is enough to bring us to know the truth of who we are. The Course in Miracles says, all it takes is a little willingness, just a little curiosity, tiny little bit of, could there be another way? Why do you see it this way? What have you read that helped you change your perception? There are so many ways to begin the journey of curiosity. For me, it began by unraveling the stories that I had been taught about the church. And that sent me on, into a rabbit hole where I began to discover so many things that were ego run. And those were the things, the institutions that were running the world, and the people. It wasn't the institutions, it was the people running the institutions that were running the world, were completely in their ego, and they were operating from those 7 deadly sins. And when I began to understand, oh my goodness, if this is the way people behave at the highest levels, how is this affecting us at the local level? And I began to get really clear. I started studying local information and understanding about judges that were corrupt and police that were corrupt, and police that were really kind and benevolent, and judges that were really loving and caring. And I saw, there are 2 sides. You can choose the side of the ego, you can choose the side of God, and the outcomes are totally different. And the one thing that the people had in common that I noticed operated with God, they were at peace, they were kind, they were gentle, they were compassionate. And that made it really clear to me that there is a way of being in the world. And it's obvious to see those who are listening to God, there's a way of being in the world. When you listen to the ego, those people who are selfish and greedy, they lie, they cheat, they have double standards, they they have to hide, they have to protect themselves, they're always looking for something to benefit them. And you see the distinction between the two. And I had to make a decision for me. Which one do I want to be? I'm not going to bounce back and forth. That wasn't interesting to me. What was interesting to me was to ground myself in the peace of God. And last week we started looking at lesson 200. And the title of the lesson is, There is no peace except the peace of God. And as I went deeper into my journey, and I really began to understand what this is all about, it was absolutely clear to me that until I came to know God, I could not come to know peace. And the Course in Miracles was the primary teachings that led me down the path that brought me to this very lesson many, many years ago, lesson 200. There is no peace except the peace of God. And when I read those words, you mean there's no other way to find that peace except for me to find it from God, through God? I was not going to stop until I found that peace. I was not going to stop until I got to know God. And I'm only going to read the first couple of lines from the first paragraph, and then we're going to go where we stopped, which we ended in paragraph number 6. So we're going to pick up in paragraph 7. But let me read from paragraph number 1. Seek no further. You will not find peace except the peace of God. One of the things about A Course in Miracles that struck me from the very beginning is Jesus doesn't mince words. Jesus is very clear. The message is very simple. and is very direct, and it is very consistent. And as I began to receive what was in the course and I could feel it working in me, I began to trust the teachings. And when it tells me seek no further, I knew, all right, this is it. This is where I'm going to find the peace. I better get to know God. So this entire journey of discovering, basically remembering that we have God inside of us. I mean, we were created in the image of the Creator, and it is nothing but energy, and there's only one energy. So that energy is inside of us. And I realized, okay, the kingdom of heaven is within, God is inside of me. Then I began to find, how am I going to cultivate that peace in me? That is how I'm going to get to know God inside. So anyways, that led me through an incredible journey. I'm going to read the first sentence of paragraph 4. It just says, come home, come home. When we understand that peace that we're looking for, the love that we're looking for, the awareness, the light, the truth, the acknowledgement of abundance, knowing that there's always more than enough because we're connected to all that is, none of that can be found unless we come home. And the more that we move through this, I'm going to read sentence number 5, or paragraph number 5, first sentence again. Freedom is given you where you be held by chains and iron doors. I'm going, okay, I was given freedom, but I have chains and iron doors. How can this be? That helped me really understand the ego, understand the chains that I have placed around myself, my mind. So let me just read I'll read paragraph 6, and that will lead us into 7 to bring all of us to the same page. All right, paragraph 6. What does forgiveness do? In truth, it has no function and does nothing. And for students of A Course in Miracles, that's like a what? We've been studying about forgiveness is the way to heal, the way to move forward. But listen to what it continues to say. It is unknown in heaven. It is only hell where it is needed and where it must serve a mighty function. Is not the escape of God's beloved Son from evil dreams that he imagines yet believes are true a worthy purpose? Who could hope for more while there appears to be a choice to make between success and failure, love and fear? The process of forgiveness was given to us to use on planet Earth while we're operating in 3D consciousness, third dimension consciousness, low consciousness, while we are in greed, in selfishness, operating at the absolute, all about me, protect me, take care of me. It's all about me, not about you. In that selfish, greedy, fear-based victim mentality, we then create the I'm going to take care of me bully persona. That's where the karma comes in. You're bouncing between victim in one situation and the bully in the next. The victim of the lies of somebody else, and then you can bounce back and become the one who tells lies about another. Fortunately, we're seeing that a lot of people who lies have been said about them, those people are rising above taking revenge by telling a lie about the other. They are standing and bringing the light of truth to expose more of the lies for one reason and one reason only, to end the game of suffering. We need forgiveness while we are in this 3D world, because this world has become hell, because our mind is so confused, so anxious, in turmoil, that we feel like we are in hell. Life feels hellacious. But when you understand the love of the Father, God doesn't need to forgive anybody, because God knows we are playing a game in consciousness. And this is so hard for people to understand. But what consciousness means is just like we sleep at night and we dream and we see lions and tigers and people running in a swimming pool and beach vacation in a big person chasing you down a dark alley and it feels so real. Well, our daytime is a sleep process where we think this is really real. So really, that's why they say we are asleep, because we are imagining things like we do in a nighttime dream, but this, we are making it real. And we make it real by agreements. And as long as we'll agree, yes, that murder of those children took place, or no, it didn't, you're going to side with whatever belief you want to participate in. So our work is to wake up while we are still dreaming that we are separate from God and that all of this is real. The Course in Miracles is really clear. We don't wake up fully until we are out of the dream stage completely, which means we remember what we are and we are in 100% awake. And at that point, we don't need a body like Jesus. You don't need a body. You know, you can communicate with anybody because we're one. That's just the way that it works. All minds are joined. But while we are in a state of experiencing separation, thinking that we are physical bodies, and I still think I am, that's why I'm not fully awake. I am awakening. We begin to make the choices that allow us to forgive ourselves for our 3D behavior and recognize the love of the Father that does not need to forgive us, because God knows the minute that we are fully awake, we are not going to be using these bodies to hurt anybody. The minute we enter the awakened state inside of the dream, we begin to co-create what the Course in Miracles calls a happy dream. And that means that we begin to do things that make us happy. And once you awaken to the truth of who you are and you realize that we're all one, we don't need to lie about other people. We don't need to kill other people. We don't need to be corrupt and cheat other people. So the new earth that we're going to be creating is going to be created by people who want a happy dream. Until then, we need to go through the process of finding peace within ourselves. Because at the level of the head that is anxious and worried, all we're going to do is protect ourselves, defend ourselves, hold on to our belongings because we are attached to them, because we think that that's the only thing that's going to make us safe. It's going to give us any kind of peace, money in the bank. Once that's not what makes us happy, what makes us peaceful, we have it and we're still not happy. That's how you understand that nothing external makes you happy. Then you want to find the peace of God. And this is when you begin the journey home. And you begin to realize, wow, this loving creator that loves me so much doesn't need to forgive what I did when I was unconscious. Then I must begin the process of forgiving myself and forgiving others, because none of us knew what we were doing when we were in the dream. When we thought that this separation and cheating and lying and stealing was okay, well, they did it, so I can do it too. When we forgive ourselves for not knowing what we were doing, we then begin the process of waking up so that we do know what we're doing, so that we become conscious of what we're doing. But we know we're not going to do it without the peace of God inside, because now there's nothing to seek outside of ourselves. So paragraph 7 says, there is no peace except the peace of God, because he has one Son who cannot make a world in opposition to God, to God's will and to his own, which is the same as his. Now here it talks about God has one Son, but really truly what that means is God has one child. In terms, all of us are one. All of us are the sons and daughters of God, all of us connected, because all of us are made of the same one energy. So there cannot be any separation. And once we all know that we are one, we will not oppose God's will, because God wills for us to be happy. Who is going to oppose happiness once you discover the purity of happiness, the ease of the way happiness flows for one who has found peace within? Sentence number 2 in paragraph 7 says, what could he hope to find in such a world? In this crazy world, it cannot have reality because it never was created. It is here that he would seek for peace. All right, so let's break this down. So Course in Miracles tells us that this world is not real. And I want to propose that you think of the world in two ways, because the Course in Miracles is all about helping us see things from two perspectives. So God creates planet Earth. We create the world's rules, regulations, hierarchies, religions. So the world that man has made and has been infused with ego is very much about divisiveness, lack, and suffering, because it runs with fear. The virus in the head of those who believe in the game of separation is fear. God creates his beautiful planet. You could call it the Garden of Eden. But we decide that we are not going to just have fun and enjoy the garden. We are going to begin to believe in knowledge, human knowledge and God's knowledge. Excuse me a second. That's why in the Bible they say that Eve ate of the apple of the tree of good and evil, the tree of knowledge. That is our own thinking that opposes God's knowledge. So we've got God's way and we've got the opposing of God's way. Humanity has made a world that opposes God's way, because God's way is of love and peace and happiness, and the ego's way is of fear, is of greed, and it's of suffering. God's way is that we're one, we should co-create and collaborate. The ego's way is that no, we're separate, we should compete, and one has to win and take all, and the other one is the loser. So we were given the ability in the Garden of Eden to choose to believe two thought systems. And, you know, they blame it on the woman, they blame it on Eve, but really, Adam and Eve, male, female, all chose to eat of that nonsense that it's okay to oppose God. So we have been experiencing the consequences of blocking God. Or as if you take the acronym for ego, edging God out. Because we all have been edging God out, we have made of this world, of this beautiful planet, a mess, an insane asylum. We've polluted it. We've diluted its beauty into such, ugliness in so many cases. However, God's earth, beautiful earth, is also conscious, has its own intelligence because it's one with God, just as we are. Animals are one with God. Plants are one with God. The sky is one with God. All planets are one with God. It has its own consciousness, and it is beginning to shake out of the dream of it's okay for the humans to be the rulers and pollute the planet. The planet is saying, no, no more. I'm going to rise from this nonsense and I'm going to show you. So right now we're living through a world where the planet is doing what it's going to be doing. Lots of natural events are taking place because the planet's waking up, and the humans are waking up and beginning to question, is it okay to lie about a president? Is it okay to do that? Do we want rulers that operate that way? Because if the rulers do it, then guess what? Then the heads of the corporations can do it. Then the heads of the church can do it. Then the heads of the family can do it. Then I can do it to you if I happen to maybe be bigger or older than you. If they do it, then I can do it. This is why the days of do as I say, not as I do are over, because we're all watching and we're all seeing double standards are not okay. The ones that think that they're okay are being exposed so that they can wake up. The light is shining on them. So what might look like a dark thing that they're doing is actually a call for awakening, a call for love. And when you shine the light on that darkness, then we have an opportunity to say, no, we don't want that anymore. No, we're done with pandemics that are man-made in laboratories through things like gain of function. Those are not the natural order of what God has given us on this playground to play with. So as more light is shed on the darkness, we are seeing more what it says in here, beginning to see the, where is it here? The chains, oh, that, yes, the chains and the iron doors that we have placed in front of ourselves. And what those refer to is just the beliefs, the lies that we have told ourselves that makes us not feel free on a planet where we were created to be free. Not only to be free, but to remember that we're eternal. So don't get attached to anything here, because through incarnation, we're going to keep coming back. But also, while you're here, be happy. Life, eternal, don't get attached. Liberty, be free, go anywhere. This is your planet. Happiness, pursuit of happiness. Be happy wherever you go. This is your playground. And we were all created equal so that we could all have that experience. But we don't all have that experience of heaven on earth, because some are believing that they are more righteous than others, that they made up a hierarchy, that they get to do it, but not everybody else, that some can do it, or if you want to do it, you got to pay them. So we've created, a mess of this planet, and it is time for us to wake up, which is why we get teachings like these to help us find our way back home. So then in paragraph number 7, sentence number 5 says, well, let me just read this question in light of what I just said about this crazy planet. Sentence number 4 says, is it here that he would seek for peace? Are we going to look for peace out there in the world? Or must he see that as he looks on it, on the world can but deceive? Don't look for peace in corrupt politicians making sure that we don't have any mass murders. Don't look for peace in corrupt, selfish, greedy organizations that you think are going to give you your well-being when God already gave it to you. Don't seek for people out there just because they wear a badge and carry a gun to actually protect you and care about your liberty. We are being told over and over and over in the Course in Miracles, pay attention. Are they worshiping God, or are they worshiping the ego? If they're worshiping the ego and the ego is their authority, we are going to perpetuate our suffering. There is no way out of suffering except to find the peace of God in you. Then you stop participating in the insanity that perpetuates the suffering. So if you're looking in the world for your answers, you will be deceived. Yet, can he learn to look on it another way and find the peace of God? Hell yes. That's what we are being invited to do. See what is happening. Is it gentleness, kindness, collaboration, cooperation, in uplifting? If it's not that, then the ego is in charge, and it's a call for love. It requires that those who can see clearly be in the world, but not of it. Participate in the correction if you feel inspired. If it doesn't excite you to run for office, don't. If it doesn't excite you to contribute to somebody who might want to run for office, even if you feel like they are answering the call for God, if it doesn't excite you, don't send the money. Do only what excites you, what makes you happy, because then you'll find your groove in this stream of consciousness that is wanting to move us in a specific direction of peace on earth for all. But we all have to find our groove when we learn how to sit in the stillness, connect to that peace, and allow ourselves to be guided to do what it is that God needs us to do. So in paragraph 8, it says, peace is the bridge that everyone will cross to leave this world behind. But peace begins within the world perceived as different and leading from this fresh perception to the gate of heaven and the way beyond. And all of you who have been in my classes understand that I always use a bridge as an analogy of the journey from ego to God, from 3D world to the 5D world, from being asleep to waking up. That process teaches us how to become more peaceful within ourselves so that we can more clearly see that which kept us in anxiety and in confusion before. Because it says here, peace is the bridge. As we take that long journey out of hell, every step makes us trust a little bit more the peace of God within, we first begin to utilize our power, which is God's power in us, as we begin to forgive those who trespassed against us, as we begin to forgive ourselves for holding on to stories and spinning them for decades. We begin to free ourselves of all that suffering, and we begin to feel peace inside. That's how we begin to see how powerful our mind is, because the things that happen to us happen to us. We can't go back in time and change what happened, but we begin to see, whoa, I just changed my mind. I just forgave my father. And all of a sudden, wow, I feel such expansiveness. And you realize, who did that? Oh, I did. How did I do that? By changing my mind, by shifting my perception, and I had a miracle. Wow, that felt so good. But it's not sustainable until you do that with everything, until you clean up everything in your mind. Because as you clear up one thing, the other things get louder until you choose to free yourself from that. And when the mind begins to get quiet, because we deliberately, you and I, make the choice to shift our perception and give ourselves the miracle, as the mind begins to get quiet, we begin to feel, see, we're using those senses instead of to protect ourselves and what can I get out of the world, seeking pleasure and avoiding pain. We begin to use those senses to be with that peaceful emptiness inside. And as we experience that peaceful emptiness inside, everybody that sits in that peace will be brought to tears, because that's when you can begin to feel God within. In that emptiness, now there's no more arguing or looking at the outer world for distraction. You indwell, and you realize, wow, all is really well with my soul. I'm here. God's here. All is absolutely perfect and well. And from that place, you begin to really recognize that the only way you want to be in the world is not of it. You don't want to be of the insanity. You don't want to be of the judgment. You don't want to be of the hierarchy. You don't want to be of the being controlled by somebody else. You don't want to be on the receiving end of a bully. You don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be a bully to anybody else, because it's boring. And you know it only causes suffering. And you begin to realize, wow, I and the Father are one. Let me be the change I want to see in the world. Let me be an example. Let me be the beacon of light that lights the path for all those people out there that have no clue, because they don't know what they don't know. And we use forgiveness in this world, knowing that God doesn't forgive anybody, because when you went inside and you found the peace of God, you didn't ask for forgiveness. You didn't have to. The love is so all-encompassing that you know you're the prodigal child and nothing needs to be forgiven. See, and the light just got brighter out there in that window, and I'm basking in the light of truth as I read this, and basking in the light of that beautiful sunshine that is coming through that window. But listen to what this says here in paragraph 8, sentence number 2. But peace begins within the world perceived as different. Once we have peace in our heart, we know, okay, I can handle this. God, where would you have me go serve? I can handle it. And leading from this fresh perception to the gate of heaven and the way beyond. See, we're going to create peace on earth. We will create peace on earth. But there is a beyond that we don't yet know about, because our mind has been so focused on the insanity on the planet. We think getting to peace is like, whew, that's the best thing we can possibly get to. That is just the beginning. That is the beginning of what comes next. We don't know what's going to be beyond peace, but we got to get to peace before we can then, from a peaceful place, no longer at war and in jealousy and in greed, from a peaceful place, begin the process of co-creation. We haven't experienced that in human form. So we've got to get clear. There is beyond peace something magnificent coming. And once you begin to trust God, and you come to peace, and that feels pretty freaking amazing, you know what comes after that is going to be even more amazing, because it only gets better and better. So sentence number 3, peace is the answer to conflicting goals, to senseless journeys, frantic, vain pursuits, and meaningless endeavors. Now the way is easy, sloping gently toward the bridge where freedom lies within the peace of God. We are going to gently move off of the bridge where we do all the work to get to God, to get to peace. And from there, it gets to be fun and easy. It has to be, because we're leaving insanity behind. We're leaving selfishness and greed and competition and lack and control. We're going to leave all of that behind. When we drop that baggage, we are free to move the way God intended for us to move. Life, liberty. Once you know you're eternal and you are free of the ego conditioning, the density, the darkness of the ego, now the way is going to be fun and easy. What it's going to look like, who knows and who cares? Without that much peace, that much fun, that much love in your heart, who cares? It can only get better. That's what I'm counting on. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, because I get glimpses of this new earth. I get glimpses of the cooperation and the collaboration. I'm seeing it happening on this planet, because people who have found the peace of God inside, in total and complete faith, are not fighting the ego entrenched establishment. They are co-creating something new. They're educating people about what is not true, and they are busy co-creating the new. And that is so evident everywhere. The new school systems, and they're not systems, the new collaborative teaching, the new collaborative medical consortiums that are coming together, cooperatives that are coming together, the new way of governing. We're seeing a few of those popping up here and there with such integrity, such clarity about upholding things like the Constitution of the United States. You know, people say, oh, the Constitution says that all men are created equal. God says God created us equal. The Constitution only upholds what God already decreed. But so many people don't understand the Constitution. I really didn't. In the Declaration of Independence, I didn't know that stuff, because I was in the world and I was of it. I expected somebody else to manage those things for me. As I began to understand, how did my mind fall into the illusion of the ego? I had to see the ego at work in the outer world. I had to see the ego in the church that controlled my ideas of God. I had to see ego in education system that controlled my ideas of what I can and cannot do, and what I should do when I grow up. Then I began to see the ego in my family, and I began to see the hierarchy of man, knows everything, woman doesn't. And I began to see the way that kind of belief system created cheating and lying and controlling and manipulation. It was like, holy cow. I began to see the ego in government. I began to see, how do the rich keep getting richer? How do people enter government with not a whole lot of money and a very, average salary, relatively speaking? They walk out multi-millionaires. What happened? How did their paycheck multiply like that? And my paycheck, at one time, I made just as much as some of these senators. And I was like, my paycheck's not multiplying. And I don't live in DC. I don't have those big expenses. Yeah, I live in East Cobb. And two and two began to come together for me. And I began to realize, oh, that happens because you can do greed. And when you are greedy and you have power, I see how that works. And that's how my mind was able to make sense of the outer world that was insane. And then I began to focus on, okay, God, what would you have me do? And then the journey came inside, find the peace of God within. And what's been mine to do is to share what I discover. Now to be a conscious grandmother, and then to become a conscious parent when I was beginning to discover this, and to the best of my ability, support those who are on the front lines doing the things that are going to change the outer world. But my focus is not on changing the outer world. My focus has been on changing my perception of the outer world, because I spend more time imagining where we're headed than I do in seeing what is, which is really fascinating, absolutely fascinating. And I can feel where we're headed. And I'm now seeing it more clearly where it's beginning to pop up, because I have the eyes to see that, because I have been feeling it in my heart. All right, so let's go on to paragraph number 9. So let us not lose our way again today. We go to heaven, and the path is straight. This is not a meandering path. If you want peace, there's only one way. Come inside. And seeing the light lights up again. There's only one way. Only if we attempt to wander can there be delay and needless wasted time on thorny byways. God alone is sure, and he will guide our footsteps. He will not desert his son in need, nor let him stray forever from his home. The Father calls, the Son will hear. The call for peace, the call for enough, that's God in you activating the frequency of the higher consciousness that says, time to come to peace. And then we go, yes, I want more peace. Well, your desire for more peace and the Father calling you inside is like the thing that lures you in here. But you can only find it if you come inside. You're not going to find it if you get distracted looking for it in all the wrong places outside of you. And that is all there is to what appears to be a world apart from God, where bodies have reality. We are not bodies, we are free. We are still as God created us. As long as you are worried about the body, you can't come inside fully. It's not possible, because the body is a distraction from coming inside. It's when you no longer are suffering because of how your body looks or how your body ages or how your body behaves. Once the body is not an issue, what people, how they look at you, what they think of you, once that's no longer an issue. And it's not that you don't care about your body, but because it shifts once you come inside, how you feel about your body changes drastically. It has for me. But when you come inside to get to know God, then you know that you're using the body in service to love. You're using the body in service to humanity. Now, it doesn't matter if it's the age, because you're being energized from the inside and you know you're eternal. So when the body drops, it drops. Who cares? You're going to come back with a brand new body model, like my little grandbaby came in, and you're going to start again on another happy journey, but you'll come to a world with higher consciousness. When you come inside and you feel the peace of God, it changes, what you want to eat, what you want to do. So many things begin to change because the body begins to activate the dormant intelligence that has been in it, where you would numb yourself with alcohol and junk food and things that were not good for you. And all of a sudden you want things that are healthy for you. You want things that the chemicals that you are bringing in are in alignment with what activates the good chemicals in the body. So you want live foods, you want clean water, you want fresh air. You are so clear about the power that you can feel when garbage in, garbage out. If you put healthy in, healthy out. When you bring in that which is alive on the outside and it activates more aliveness in you, you then cannot help but give more aliveness of yourself. So you begin to receive, you begin to give, and we enter into a cycle where now your body is in service to being an example of what aligning with God is all about. And the path that you're supposed to follow doesn't matter. You do it with joy and with grace because you're not afraid of death. You know you're eternal, life, liberty, and happiness. You know you're eternal, so you live totally free to do what it is that you want to do that makes you happy. And those things just absolutely work seamlessly together when you're not in your head, when you're completely in your heart. And we were all created equal. Everybody has the ability to do the exact same thing. All are called, as the Course in Miracles says. Few answer the call because too many are still too attached to the shiny things in the world and too scared to let go of things that don't make them happy, but they pay the bills. So they're afraid to go inside where they find eternalness, eternal abundance, eternal joy. So let me go to paragraph number 10. Now is there silence. Seek no further. You have come to where the road is carpeted with leaves of false desires fallen from the trees of hopelessness you sought for. Now are they underfoot. All of that is below your feet. You're walking home. And you're going to walk home above all that silliness of the world, and it's going to be okay. And you look up and on toward heaven with the body's eyes, but serving for an instant longer now. So we get to stay here just a little while longer. Remember, we're eternal. So then time begins to not matter. Just a little while. Each lifetime becomes just a little while. Peace is already recognized at last, and you can feel its soft embrace. Surround your heart and mind with comfort and with love. Today, we seek no idols, no more people out there, no more stuff to make you think that they have power over you. Peace cannot be found in them. The peace of God is ours, and only this will we accept and want. Peace be to us today, for we have found a simple, happy way to leave the world of ambiguity and to replace our shifting goals and solitary dreams with single purpose and companionship. For peace is union, if it be of God. See, once we find peace, we connect not only with God first, but then we connect with our neighbors. Love God, number one. Then you love your neighbor as yourself. Those are the only 2 commandments Jesus gave us. The Old Testament had like 600 some odd commandments, and Jesus simplified it to 2. It's really 1, but it broke them down into 2 because people would have been even more confused. Once you know God and you know we're all one, you can't help but love everybody. But you cannot love everybody till you come to love yourself enough to let go of your attachments to the worldly stuff and come to the path within. See, I love how the light just gets so bright when I hit on these beautiful, truthful things. So we seek no further. We are close to home and draw still nearer every time we say, there is no peace except the peace of God. And I am glad and thankful that it is so. This concludes the completion of lesson 200. There is no peace except the peace of God. So I would love to hear from you. Anybody got any nuggets from this conversation? I would love to hear your thoughts. And then remember, today is the last time we can use these links. And then I am shifting this. I put the link in there for the Patreon channel. If you want to join me and keep doing this, $9 a month. Or you can message me. I will text everybody the Patreon link after when I send the recording of this, so everybody has it. But other than that, I now want to hear from you. So unmute yourselves, please, if you want to share. Crystal, hello.
Yes. So, yes, well, I really liked.
Uh-oh, that just got frozen. Crystal,
Sorry?
Start again. That it froze for a second. Start again, please.
Oh, okay. I think, let me just move to another section because I think it says the internet connection is unstable. Just hold on. Okay, maybe it'll be better here. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
The part where you mentioned about connecting with what makes you happy and connecting with your true self, that part that is referred to in the Constitution, and of course the freedom that God gives us in terms of the equality that we all have equal rights to connecting with the one and with the access, made in the image of the divine, and just recognizing that if you keep doing what makes you happy, you will be in alignment. But I mean that's just making sure that you are truly relating to what makes you happy, and that you're not doing it for someone else to make you happy. You got to get into that alignment stage where you know truly what makes you happy. You can't go wrong.
No, you can't.
Because it's the divine pattern that you fit into, that puzzle, that trillion puzzle. If you have a puzzle of trillions of puzzle shapes, we are each one of those puzzles. And if you find your place, your place is indelible. And you can't go wrong. And that means you have to tune in.
Perfectly said. Absolutely perfectly said. There's a big difference between learning what makes us happy and knowing how to go inside to connect with that happiness versus what brings us pleasure, which is what we have confused with happiness. And it always it has to come from the outside, whether it comes to us willingly or we take it from another. And we might get pleasure, but it's not happiness, sustainable happiness, because it doesn't come from a place connected within. So you're absolutely right. We have to know who we are before we know what makes us happy. Yes. What else? Who else? All right. Well, thank you, Crystal, for your share. And thank you all for coming here today in this last way that we're doing it this way. And then we start something new that God inspired me to do starting next week. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Hello, Miss Beautiful Cat. Good to see you. Did you want to share?
Well, that piece is what I mean, everything resonated with me with this. And sometimes I'm saying, well, okay, so truly what makes me happy? Well, that's to be at peace and be the loving person, the light that my intention every day is to be in the world, and to be grateful, so grateful for the awareness that this sort of information gives me. So the bottom line, it seems to me, is that you can't be truly happy unless you're at peace. So that's my criteria of true happiness, which means you have to let go of the ego. Lots of shifting and lifting, and that's what is required. Even if it's moment to moment, that's what's required.
Exactly. That's what the bridge is for, is whatever steps are necessary to let go of the iron bars that we have placed upon our minds and free ourselves from the conditioning. So it requires an incredible amount, as you know, of honesty. Question every thought, be honest. Is this what God thinks is true? Or is this my ego? Is this what the society made up? And little by little, we free ourselves of that bondage. So yeah, you're absolutely right. You won't be happy till you're at peace, and you won't find peace until you decide to be happy as God created you.
Yeah. Yep. It's a journey. It's a journey.
And thankfully, we have such incredibly mighty companions to journey together with. So thank you so much.
Oh, yes.
Thank you for this. And so appreciate you. We've been doing this for 1.5 years, and some of you have been here the whole 1.5 years. So that's really exciting. Many came and went, and you guys have stuck it out. So thank you so much for that. It just keeps getting better. I keep doing this because it keeps getting better. It's like, wow, amazing things keep flowing through. All right. We'll see you next week. I love you all.
Okay, hopefully I can find that Parthenon thing. So,
I'll email it to everybody.
yeah, okay.
It's a fast link.
There's
It's
also an app in the App Store.
exactly Patreon.
Yep. I joined. So I'll see you next week.
Thank you, sweetheart. You all take care.
Y'all too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Thanks.
See you
everybody.
tomorrow. See you
See you
tomorrow.
soon.
Rachel.
See you soon.